Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. In today's video I want to review the preseason, how it went, how I feel about it, what we learned, grade the players that we have, and then talk a fair bit about the ongoing transfer sagas as we are moving into the final few days before our opening game. Talk about Ronaldo, talk about a lot of outs, talk about Sesko, talk about Frankie de Jong, and everything. So this will be a pretty packed video overall with a lot in here, as there is a lot to discuss and a lot of news going on, and United are very active on many fronts. Today's video is sponsored by OneFootball. We've teamed up with OneFootball to help bring you the best in football news. If you're looking to keep up with everything going on these days, which is a lot, download OneFootball today for free from the App Store for iPhone, Android, or wherever. Their easy-to-use app is clean and attractive. You can see the latest transfers for your team, or all transfers, top news curated for you, match scores live, streaming, and so much more, all built and personalized for your interests. Click the link in the description below today to download OneFootball and get all your football news, aside from the Muppetiers of course, all in one place. So in terms of preseason, overall I was very encouraged by it. This is the first full preseason we've had in quite a long time. Even last one was cut short a bit by Euros. Even there were some games. This is the first one I can remember since the last time United went to and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's first preseason out over into the East again. I remember the early mornings waking up to watch the games in the same way. Overall encouraged. I think we learned quite a bit, actually. I think we learned very specifically how Ten Hag wants to play at United. He played a very specific setup over and over and over again. First team, second team. It was always the same kind of style and idea, which matches his philosophy. And obviously he feels that that is the best fit. This tended to be a bit of I don't know what you'd call the general formation, whether 4-3-2-1, 4-3-3, but in build-up and in possession, for the most part, it was building up in that 2-3-5 kind of setup, where you had the two center backs up high center, you had the two fullbacks tucking in, you had a deep midfielder progressing and moving things along and occasionally dropping into the back line. You had those two kind of eights, and you had the three forwards. And that seems to be how Erik ten Hag wants to play. And I'll talk about what I predict then for the first game of the season based on that. And I think we'll see. I mean, it would be interesting to see if he totally surprises and changes it. But I think right now it's pretty easy to predict outside of one or two positions based on fitness what the team is going to be to start the season. But let's get into rating each players I want to run through. These ratings aren't necessarily, it's A+, that means the best player in the world. It's about rating their preseason performance relative to what I expect from them, relative to how they did last season, and how much positivity or negativity it gives me towards their upcoming season and what I expect. I'm not going to do every player, just the main ones I expect to have serious involvement. The players I expect to be gone, on loan, some of the youth players I will discuss afterwards. So let's start at the top. Marcus Rashford, I would give him a B. He had a bit of a slower start in preseason, but thought he was very sharp in the last few games. In the game in Perth against Aston Villa, despite the conditions, which were awful, he was very good. And in better conditions, he would have been even more good and dangerous. But he was good there, good in the prior game, creating a goal. I think he was a good spark for Atletico. Not great, but and not amazing, but good and better than his performances last season. He needs to kick on from that and keep it going. Anthony Martial, I would give an A. I thought he did everything right. Couldn't ask for too much more, and especially based on how the last season has gone, how things have been, he showed a lot of what he needed to show to impress. The interplay was great. He worked hard. He pressed well. The only mark off from an A+ for him, because I thought he did exceptionally well, was his finishing. His finishing let him down in that Atletico game. He should have scored a goal or maybe two, but probably at least a goal. But in other games he was great. His finishing was composed. Good play. Jadon Sancho, I'm giving an A+. And I think it's an A+ because I think he was the absolute standout in preseason. Even though he was ill versus Atletico, he was absolutely unplayable in other games. Creative, scoring, passing, doing it all. And he looks to be, as of now, the best fit of all the forwards into Ten Hag's system. He looks to be thriving, where he's able to not be stuck on one wing as a touchline winger, which he's not, but to interplay, create, and link up with those advanced eights and the forwards in a proper way. And I give him an A+ as well because when he was not on, the drop-off was horrible. And that bumps him up to that A+ for me. Anthony Alanga, that in terms of that drop-off, that's what I talk about. I give him a D+. I think he was really, really, really poor on the ball, in attack, in movement, pretty much all of preseason. And the only positive I can really say is he had a good work rate, he tracked back well, and he might have done a little bit better in an Atletico game if they had... Yeah, he was very poor, but at the same time, if the referee had been giving out the yellows that he should, he probably would have had a bit more impact on the game. Bruno, I would give a C+. I thought he was not great in a few games, but in other games I think he was pretty solid. He needs to continue to work on his discipline, but at the same time needs to get that creative spark. There were games he was more disciplined, but he hasn't shown anything exceptional again as we'd seen before through most of preseason. So I want to see more from Bruno at the moment. McTominay was a D for me. I thought he was probably the worst player among the consistent starters. I don't rate McTominay as poorly as a lot of people do. I think he's got a lot of potential in some ways. I think he has certain strengths, but I think he had a really poor preseason. He was, and here's why. Of all the players, he was still completely invisible. He has no idea where to play in the build-up. I just do not see it. His spacing is bad. His positioning is bad. He doesn't contribute. He doesn't get on the ball. And I don't see it for him. And he's not in a defensive... And this is the thing. With the change in setup, it's less about his defending impact and more about being able to get involved, create, and be a part of the team in possession, and he does not do it. So it's not that I don't think he can play. I think he can play his depth. I think when you need more physical presence in the midfield and defending, you'd want to have... He's a good player to be in there. He's been in the team for a couple 70-point seasons as a main starter. And in lower competitions, I think his on-ball ability to carry and physicality help. But I'm disappointed that he doesn't seem to be grasping on or improving on his involvement in build-up and possession. And so for that, it's very much a disappointment for me. For Donny van de Beek, I would say C. Until the final game against Atletico, he was also quite invisible. Against Rayo. He was quite invisible in many games, failing to make an impact, failing to do much, failing to get involved in a similar way to McTominay. Which is surprising for him and a bit frustrating. He did have a good moment in one of the games helping to create a goal. In Rayo, I thought he was much better. So overall, I felt about where he was expected. Didn't do anything that would say, yeah, he deserves to play as a starter or be in the team. But he obviously has certain qualities that also were shown there, and if that can figure better in different formations and setups, then he has some chance. But there wasn't some like dramatic explosive leap or improvement with him being in a Ten Hag team. So give him a C. For Fred, obviously I'm a big fan, but A- for Fred is what I would give him. Considering the fact that he's playing in the new role, playing essentially as a lone deep midfielder, I thought he did an exceptional job in nearly every game. It wasn't perfect, but he was involved properly in playing out the back, build up, and as usual, his energetic defensive work was desperately needed and helped quite a lot. He did the job, and he did the job well, and obviously want to see how that translates, but considering how well he did last season, him adding this ability and discipline and position under Ten Hag in this role is very impressive and really coming together as him having quite a good season. The marks I would take off for him is occasionally he loses a bit of sharpness and loses the ball from dwindling or not dawdling, but maybe just I thought his passing was actually really good. and his on ball was good, defending was good. There was no like major errors. There's just a couple times where he seems to linger on it out of indecision, and he's going to have to move quicker than that at times, but I'm sure he will work on that. Luke Shaw's a B. I thought he was good going forward, had some nice interplay with Rashford, smart progressions. Defensively, though, he still switches off at times, which he's got to work on, as always. And he has competition now, which came in the form of Tyrell Malaysia, who I would give a B+. And again, that's relative to him. I don't think he's ahead of Shaw. I don't think he cemented himself ahead of Shaw. There's still things Shaw brings to the table from a carrying and an interplay standpoint where he was better. But he had a very good preseason for what I expected. I can see why Ten Hag likes him from the beginning. He's tenacious, works hard. He's physical enough for his size and age. Tidy passing. He's smart. Where I saw some problems was I didn't see his defending to be that impactful at times. And I thought he was a bit too loose in deep areas where in a Premier League match, it's too dangerous. You can't make those kind of things. And sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad, but it was a little bit too risky at times in deep areas when, you got to be quicker, make the simpler pass, the simpler decision. But I thought he showed a lot of quality going forward. Lindelof I would give as a C+. I thought he was decent passing, decent defending. The same weaknesses, the same strengths he has there. So it's sort of an ordinary preseason for him, not much to learn, average. Doesn't really change things for him. Maguire, I give a B+. I think he was the easy standout in terms of center backs. He was sharp. His passing and switch of play is better than anyone else on the team and was exceptional at times. He defended well. The last two games, Atleti and Villa, were excellent. He was very, very, very good. I'd take some points off for missing the free header versus Atletico, which he really does have to start scoring. I mean, that's goals we need. And for being caught out a few times, though he did manage to recover and defend well in both scenarios, there's barely anything to fault Maguire for there. And so I think it's an improvement. Rafael Varane, I give a C. I wasn't impressed, mostly because his constant fitness and injury issues continue to permeate even preseason matches for him. He seemed clunky on the ball and not that sharp when he played. It got a bit better, but again, the fact that he cannot stay fit, it's disappointing. Dalot, I give a B. Did most everything asked for on ball, going forward, sharp, worked hard. In possession, I think he did very well, but he cannot be above a B simply because in defense, he is not good 1v1. He was repeatedly getting scanned in the first game in 1v1 situations, and João Felix just turned him inside out for the goal with Atletico with ease. And that is concerning because the system is definitely going to be reliant on players winning some of those 1v1 battles to do this. So that's what I'd say for Dalot, where he needs to somehow improve. David De Gea, a B. He came off his line. He distributed better. He was clearly trying to adjust to Ten Hag tactics and deserves marks for that because he did a good job in a few games. But he still had some very bad moments of distribution, and the weakness on corners and coming out and claiming those is still painfully obvious and will be a problem for now. Lastly, of the main players who started and who were kind of involved in the last few seasons, Juan Basaka, C-. He seems switched off most of the time. Not super happy about that. He was all right for one of the matches, but just he didn't really provide much for me otherwise. He didn't show much. It's hard to say in limited time and not fitting in with the main team, but it just wasn't great. He seems, I wouldn't say gone. I'm sure he's a hard worker, but it just seems like he's just not all there during the games at this point in time. Eriksen and Martinez, there was not really enough time to judge, but I give them a B+ for the time that they were there. There were no real faults, good moments, just not enough to show more than that, but I was impressed with the time that I did see. Then, there's a few other ones like Cristiano Ronaldo and Garnacho. And again, not enough time to really make judgments. I think Garnacho was really impressive in the minutes he had. Ronaldo, I don't know. It was just okay. Hard to say. It was not enough time. The concern is this. Of the main players I graded plus Eriksen and Martinez, not including Ronaldo and Garnacho, it's 18 players I've discussed. Now, 18 players isn't a bad rotation number, but where it's extremely light is in attack. 18 to 20 players is about right, but you've got second options across the entire back line. That's good. For those 2/8s, you've got 4 options: Eriksen, Bruno, Van de Beek, Scott McTominay, even Fred, if he can move up there. But the attack options after the first 3, Rashford, Sancho, and Martial, is a blend of not good enough in case of Alanga, not ready necessarily in the case of Garnacho, and not wanting to be here in the case of Ronaldo, while for the deep mid position, the only cover you have is potentially Martinez, if he's going to come in behind Fred at the moment. So very concerning, very obvious to see where the depth is lacking. There's enough players, but there's still not enough players in a couple of positions. The flexibility of Martinez may allow for cover there. The flexibility of Eriksen or Van de Beek may allow for some cover in attack, but it's still big time reliant on the kind of issue with Ronaldo and whether Garnacho is actually ready to be in the team. My expected 11 to start, that could change later in the week based on news on fitness, like Luke Shaw, for example, whether he's healthy, whether Sancho is healthy in training, is this. I would say David De Gea, lock, Shaw or Malaysia, depending on fitness. Martinez, maybe, but otherwise it'll be Lindelof. Again, depending on fitness, only depending on fitness. Maguire, Dalot, Fred, Bruno, Eriksen, if he is fit, which I think he is, Rashford, Martial, Sancho. I think that's pretty much the guaranteed 11, just depending on those couple of fitness issues. In terms of outs, I believe Pellistri and Hannibal will still go out on loan, but not leave. Championship clubs for Hannibal might work. Pellistri has options over Spain. I haven't heard anything changed on yet, whether he's got a move lined up or whether anything's changed and he's not going to go. For permanent moves or moves they'd like to be permanent even if they can't get it, like Alex Telles, it goes like this. Twanzebe has some interest from Turkey as well as a couple of English clubs, Bournemouth included. Bailly interest is primarily from Sevilla and Roma. Telles looks like it's done to Sevilla for a year-long loan. Williams has also interest from Bournemouth and Newcastle as well, I believe. Phil Jones has interest from DC United, but there's also interest, I believe, from Fulham and some championship clubs. Juan Basaka, there's interest from Palace, but the wages are an issue. That covers it for a lot of clubs. There is also interest that has lasted from somewhere for Atletico. With regards to Ronaldo, there's not a lot of interest in him, and that's the issue. What I gather is this, again, talking about the public and private stances on this and why they're looking at a striker. As Ten Hag said in his interview today, he was not given permission to leave the game. It was not acceptable. It was not okay, and it's something that he'll have to address. I get the impression that Cristiano Ronaldo is hoping that United will cancel his contract and allow him to join a team for free, renegotiating terms. So that's where the issue is, because nobody really wants to purchase him. I look at it this way. Ten Hag is very clearly putting the gauntlet down on the team, on everyone, including Cristiano Ronaldo. There was a divide in the locker room last year where apparently it was between Maguire and people and Ronaldo and people. Ten Hag's backed Maguire and the players that are there. He's already said he's going to be captain. He's talked publicly now about Ronaldo. And here's the thing. Again, publicly, United stances, they don't want to sell Ronaldo. Why? They don't have options. They would like him to stay and contribute and put in the work. Privately, if he were to leave, they wouldn't mind it. That has been the case for a long time, and they're looking at striker. They are looking at a striker. I believe it to be Sesko, as I've talked about. If Ronaldo stays, though, it's very difficult to bring him in, and that's why there's still discussion of that loan back. But they are looking at a striker. They do want to bring one in. Chelsea and Newcastle have held talks as well with his agent, but I don't believe it's moved forward. As I reported on Monday, United have now spoken to Salzburg. This was now confirmed today by Sky Sports. The price is reportedly the issue. That's the feedback that's coming back, but there is money to spend and they're interested. They need it. Here's the issue with the price and the whole striker situation. They like the 30 million for a buy, but that is the price if they're going to do a loan back, as Salzburg want him this year. The concern now is they want the player, and they may need the player and now because this Ronaldo situation is degrading further, and they're not sure where it's going to go. And they're not sure if they can rely on him. But 50 million, 55 million is viewed as too high for a player who only has these 900 minutes last year, and that's not wrong either. If they do like the player, if Ten Hag likes him, they like the 30-35 range, maybe plus some add-ons and variables performance-related could get it done. But it's going to be a tricky deal because Salzburg want him for another year, and so it's tough to do. I think the most likely thing is still Ronaldo stays and nothing happens. After that, the most likely thing is Ronaldo stays and there's a buy and loan back. And after that, the most likely scenario is that they can buy him and get him in now with Ronaldo leaving. But they really do want to get somebody in and attack. It is a priority. I'm not saying this is the only possibility, but it is a deal they've had talks on. So we'll have to see where it goes now. But it is continuing to progress, and they're trying to make the decision if they can spend it. They can spend the money. They can. Talking about Frankie de Jong, the Chelsea news today. You have talk from Ornstein that they're looking to strike a deal. From other Chelsea sources that they're looking to strike a deal. That they're meeting with Ali Dursun today, the representatives of Chelsea. At the same time, Ali Dursun and the head of the agency are also meeting with Barcelona. Here's the fact of it. United continue to claim confidence as recently as yesterday. That's a fact. They're claiming confidence. His reps are meeting in Barcelona today, as we talked about on Monday, to review all the possibilities, all the offers on the table, all the avenues, and get his future sorted out because the season is about to begin. I mentioned that Barcelona still want to sell. They're still likely to sell. They're talking about a fourth lever now. Again, I don't believe them. There was some stories the other night then about how they weren't confident that they'd be able to register everyone and that they might need these sales still, and I think that is the case. So Chelsea are interested, and all it's going to come down to is this. If Frankie has given United the assurances they claim that he has given them or not. That's it. It comes down to that. If they're right, then it's not a worry as they claim, and it's come out again today. They've given those assurances. It's just about the paid wages. Well, that's not going to change with Chelsea. So it still should be a deal on the table for United if what they're saying is true. But then how can it keep dragging? Are they confident that Barcelona will cave and pay these wages? Are they confident that Frankie won't just end up staying on high wages without it getting resolved? We'll see. They claim to be so, but it's all about whether they're right or not. If they're wrong or it isn't true, then this can all fall apart now. And this is sort of the subject of those Thiago tapes again, as to whether or not to believe them and to say whether or not we can trust United at this point in time to be forthright in what is actually going on. Regardless, I'll say this. This is where the rubber meets the road. They've only spent a net of 60 million or so this summer, and they can do both deals for Frankie and Sesko. They could pay the 85, and they could pay the 50 if they wanted to and get the deals done, especially if they just tear up Ronaldo's contract and save the wages. I've given all my optimism on the team. I still have it. I still think we'll do well whether we sign another player or not. I still think this team is a lot better, and under Ten Hag it's going to do really well. But that doesn't change the fact that they can and should spend the money and get both of these deals done, and that if they do not, anything else would be considered a failure when it comes to the competency with regards to transfers and that aspect of the club. Does it mean we'll fail? No. But it does mean that it is a failure to back Ten Hag to the extent that should be done. Striker and a defensive or that deep midfielder were the priorities. We've known it all season. It's August 3rd. There's a game on Sunday. We don't have a defensive midfielder or a striker. Last year, when the right wing and the center back were the priorities, which I knew since February, they got Sancho in, they got Varane in, they did it. The prior summer, they failed in their priorities. The prior summer, the priorities were that right back, center back, and they got him. This year, they claim that they have it. They claim that they're confident in this. They claim that they're working on an attacker, and they still think they could get it done. As of now, they don't. So it has not gone to plan. So it's really coming down to the wire on these two deals to find out. And the worst part about it for me is this. Logically, it still makes sense, everything, that they would bring Frankie de Jong in and they have confidence in it. If they don't, it's worse. It's the worst thing I've seen in terms of a transfer news, because they've put off deals for it. They put off getting a striker for it earlier in the window. They put off getting attackers for it earlier in the window. They put off getting deals done. They did not move on to alternates. They did not even explore other real signings that have potential because of confidence in this deal. If it doesn't happen, it's a huge, huge, huge failing. That's the fact of it. They can't afford it. And so we're going to have to see where it goes. So far, everything is still going the way that's expected. Those meetings are happening that we talked about. The discussions with Salzburg are happening that we talked about. But the next few days to a week is going to be extremely telling as to whether they intended to actually get something done with these or not. Okay? So again, thank you for watching my video today. Thank you for following the channel. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. I'll see you in the next one.